This report includes a huge swath of macroeconomics, such as the effects of tax reform, a new industrial policy, and understanding how to deal with the uncertainty inherent in global financial market. But it also covers key areas of microeconomic policies, such as boosting laggardly rates of productivity. The committee would also like to express its gratitude to the independent assessors who joined the committee for consideration of each case. Their expertise and advice play a vital role in our work. A list of independent assessors who attended meetings during this reporting year is included at Appendix D. Political scholars had historically recognized the social love of the mass media. The impact of the mass media on the election and governing process has greatly increased over the last 50 years. Tomorrow, the mass media will become the central nervous system for your society and the major source of public information. Our major conclusion is that the current measure needs to be revised. It no longer provides an accurate picture of the differences in the extent of economic poverty among population groups or geographic areas of the country, nor an accurate picture of trends over time. Regular exercise releases brain chemicals key for memory, concentration, and mental sharpness at the same time as lifting your mood and lowering stress and anxiety, all of which contribute to brain health. Studies show that regular exercise helps you manage complex tasks, organize and sharpen your focus, which is great for those long revision sessions or particularly complex exam questions. The wonderful framework of mature trees creates a secluded, enclosed atmosphere that unites a great variety of plantings to inspire visitors in all seasons. Spring in the garden is marked by leafing up and flowering of trees and the eruption of the flowers in the bulb meadows and woodland understory. Despite a number of events in recent years devoted to language diversity, language endangerment, and multilingualism, such as the International Year of Languages, public awareness of the issues is still remarkably limited. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. Most countries are affected by labor migration. In many rural places, the traditional extended family has been undermined by the need for family members to migrate to towns as an economic necessity. Migration, therefore, presents a major challenge everywhere to social and economic policy. Artificial intelligence has been one of the most controversial domains of inquiry in computer science since it was first proposed in the 1950s. Defined as the part of computer science concerned with designing systems that exhibit the characteristics associated with human intelligence, understanding language, learning, reasoning, solving problems. Low Earth orbit is now more accessible for more people to experience the wonders of space, tweeted NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, who was a congressman when he hitched a ride on a space shuttle decades ago. The Roman state was tested almost to destruction by the defeat at Cannae by the Carthaginians led by Hannibal, and according to the historian Polybius, it was only what he called the peculiar virtues of the Roman constitution that allowed it to survive this crisis. English colonies emerged along the eastern seaboard for a variety of reasons. People, primarily men, originally migrated to Virginia to find gold and silver to make a quick profit. After it became evident that there were no precious metals in the area, men came to Virginia to start cultivating cash crops like tobacco. Biology is the natural science that studies life and living organisms, including their physical structure, chemical processes, physiological mechanisms and evolution. Certain unifying concepts consolidated into a single and coherent field that recognizes genes as the basic unit of heredity, and evolution as the engine that propels the creation and extinction. Deaf children learning a sign language could certainly pursue the development of listening and spoken language skills if desired, and doing so would carry much less risk knowing the child would have mastery in at least one language. If a child does not succeed in mastering either a spoken language or a sign language, we must then ask how much benefit the child derived from interventions in each language relative to the amount of time and resources dedicated to those interventions. The fact is that those different types of services affect many different dimensions of well-being of people. And defining the human well-being is also extremely challenging. However, we identified that there are certain items providing basic material for life, whether it is food, shelter, or happiness. A university is not a business. More precisely, a not-for-profit college or university is significantly different than a for-profit business. A university has no owners and it is a public trust. A business has a single overriding goal, the maximization of return for the owners. A university has a multiplicity of goals, to foster learning, to create knowledge, and to serve its community. The beginning of the 21st century will be remembered, not for military conflicts or political events, but for a whole new age of globalization, flattening of the world. The explosion of advanced technologies now means that suddenly knowledge pools and resources have connected all over the planet, leveling the playing field as never before. The speaker is a marine biologist who became interested in the strandlopers, an ancient people who lived on the coastline, because of their connection to the sea. Their way of life intrigued him. As a child he had spent a lot of time by the sea, exploring and collecting things, so he began to study them, and discovered some interesting information about their way of life, how they hunted, what tools they used, and so on. In the photo, the wild cat's huge paws are clamped onto the side of the white safari jeep in which Chapel was a passenger. Almost as tall as the jeep on her hind legs, she appears to be forcing her muzzle into the back window. The coastal wetlands have environmental and economic importance. Wetlands provide natural wealth. They have important filtering capabilities. As the runoff water passes, they retain excess nutrients and some pollutants. They maintain water flow during dry periods. Thousands of people depend on groundwater for drinking. They act as natural sponges of flood waters and contain soil erosion. They control floods and save the buildings from collapsing during heavy rains. In a genuine republic, the will of the government is dependent on the will of the society, and the will of the society is dependent on the reason of the society. In Federalist 51, for example, James Madison claimed that the extent and the structure of the government of the United States make it dependent on the will of the society. Until now, Mars has been generally considered a geologically dead planet. An international team of researchers led by ETH Zurich now reports that seismic signals indicate volcanism still plays an active role in shaping the Martian surface. In the past, wars have led to inflation and higher commodity prices. Fighting disrupts trade and prevents raw materials from being shipped from one country to another. In Second World War Britain, a banana was the highest of luxury. Globalization refers to a set of changes rather than a single change. Many of these changes are social, cultural, and political rather than purely economic, and one of the main drivers in addition to the global marketplace is the communication revolution. The central idea of this book concerns our blindness with respect to randomness, particularly the large deviations. Why do we, scientists or non-scientists, hotshots or regular Joes, tend to see the pennies instead of the dollars. Why do we keep focusing on the minutiae, not the possible significant large events, in spite of the obvious evidence of their huge influence? Neither golden eagles nor bald eagles are endangered species. The U.S. bald eagle population has more than quadrupled since 2009, from around 72,000 to 317,000 birds. But the U.S. golden eagle population is still relatively small, around 30,000 birds, and at risk of declining. The world's fifth largest continent, Antarctica, is almost entirely covered by ice 2,000 meters thick. The area sustains varied wildlife including seals, whales, and penguins. The Antarctic Treaty signed in 1959 and enforced since 1961 provides for international governance of Antarctica. Some of the pain patients may become hooked. Or their meds may find their way to friends or relatives who take them recreationally. Or a prescription opioid user may transition to heroin. Heroin is just another opioid drug, so the brain doesn't distinguish whether it comes from a pharmacy or from a street drug dealer. Having the same dream again and again is a well-known phenomenon. Nearly two-thirds of the population report having recurring dreams. Being chased, finding yourself naked in a public place or in the middle of a natural disaster, losing your teeth or forgetting to go to class for an entire semester are typical recurring scenarios in these dreams. The latest scientific evidence on the nature and strength of the links between diet and chronic disease is examined and discussed in detail in the following sections of this report. This section gives an overall view of the current situation and trends in chronic diseases at the global level. Tourism is a challenging sector which divides statistics since businesses serve tourists, also serve local people. Therefore, it is not straightforward to estimate how much business sector's revenues and how many jobs are due to tourist expenditures. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study, wrote for a couple of hours, made us all breakfast, read the paper with my mother, and then went back to work for the rest of the morning. Many years passed before I realized that he did this by choice, for a living, and that he was not unemployed or mentally ill. Australians do speak English. However, for some tourists and travelers, it can be difficult to understand the slang. Also, the links between Australian and American English were seen to be very tenuous. At least some colloquialisms in Australian English do not exist in other types of English. Food is one of the most important things you'll ever buy. And yet most people never bother to think about their food and where it comes from. People spend a lot more time worrying about what kind of blue jeans to wear, what kind of video games to play, what kind of computers to buy. How quickly is the world's population growing? In the United States and other developed countries, the current growth rate is very low. In most developing countries, the human population is growing at a rate of nearly 3 people per second. Because of this bustling growth rate, the human population is well on its way to reaching 9 billion within lifetime. Just about everyone on the planet wears at least one article of clothing made from cotton at some point during the day, inevitably. Byproducts of the plant show up as well in something that person is doing. The source of cotton's power is its nearly terrifying versatility and the durable creature comforts it provides. The course considers the ways in which thinkers have responded to the particular political problems of their day and the ways in which they contribute to a broader conversation about human goods and needs, justice, democracy, and the proper relationship of the individual to the state. Statistics are indicators of change and allow meaningful comparisons to be made. While it may be the issues rather than the statistics as such that grab people's attention, it should be recognized that it is the statistics that inform the issues. Statistical literacy, then, is the ability to accurately understand, interpret and evaluate the data that inform these issues. "380 years after his death, William Shakespeare remains the central author of the English-speaking world. He is the most quoted poet and the most regularly produced playwright, and now among the most popular screenwriters as well. Why is that, and at a time when stress levels are soaring, rates of depression are increasing and the gap between rich and poor is ever widening. We believe that giving can play a positive role in helping people to feel connected to those around them and generate a sense of purpose and hope. When we give, we feel valued, useful, and happy. Your tutor helps you make the most of your time at university by giving you guidance and support along the way. All new students are allocated a personal tutor who will encourage you to get the most out of your course, direct you to other sources of support and help you achieve your goals. To some extent, attendance at cultural venues and events is influenced by a person's age and the composition of the household in which they live. For example, those people in households with dependent children were more likely to visit zoological parks and aquariums than people living in single-person households. Your body is nearly two-thirds water. And so it is really important that you consume enough fluid to stay hydrated and healthy. If you don't get enough fluid, you may feel tired, get headaches, and not perform at your best. Rarely, however, does a single research study produce the certainty needed to assume that the same results will apply in all or most settings. Rather, research is usually an ongoing process, based on many accumulated understandings and explanations that, when taken together, lead to a generalization about educational issues and practice, and ultimately, to the development of theories. The tortoise size and shell shape varies depending on where they live. The shell is made of bone and is a dull brown color. Their ribs, backbone and breastbone have become part of the shell, which is why you can never separate the tortoise from its shell. In this course, we will explore how such things as department stores, nationally advertised brand-name goods, mass-produced cars and suburbs transformed the American economy, society, and politics. The course is organized both thematically and chronologically. Each period deals with a new development in the history of consumer culture. Experts discuss the significance of attending the theater as a civic occasion, associated with the political and cultural achievements of Athens. Through archaeology and analyses of contemporary art forms such as decoration on pottery, a picture is built up of ancient Greek theater. Members of a culture must conform to its norms for the culture to exist and function. Hence, members must want to conform and obey rules. They first must internalize the social norms and values that dictate what is normal for the culture. Then they must socialize or teach norms and values to their children. Expression became important during the Romantic movement, with artwork expressing a definite feeling, as in the sublime or dramatic. Audience response was important, for the artwork was intended to evoke an emotional response. This definition holds true today as artists look to connect with and evoke responses from their viewers. We seek to improve learners' experience of education at college and help them to aspire, achieve, and progress. We must embed equality and diversity in everything we do, both as a provider and an employer. We hope to prepare our students for work, higher education, and citizenship by equipping our staff with the skills to meet this agenda.